Would I be the asshole asking our friend to return a baby shower gift after a miscarriage? I know this sounds awful and I feel like it might be a terrible thing to do, so I need some advice. My husband has a long-term family friend named Jen. Jen and I aren't friends at all, but we are friendly when we see each other. When Jen had her first kid, my husband purchased a fairly expensive item off of her baby shower registry as a gift, around $200–300 if I recall correctly. I had no issue with the gift or how much he spent. It was a nice item to gift her and we were excited for her to grow her family with her then boyfriend, now husband. Fast forward a few years, Jen and her husband are high earners, both making over six figures. Jen announced she was pregnant again very early along and sent my husband her baby shower registry with her announcement text, which was full of high-priced items. Personally, I thought this was strange because she should still have most of the items from her first kid, and I didn't think people usually did full-blown baby showers, registries after their first. I was also surprised she was asking for gifts when she was still in the first trimester, but I'm a cautious person who didn't announce my pregnancy until 20 weeks, which I know is extreme on the other side. I left it up to my husband what he wanted to do, but mentioned to him that I was surprised she was organizing another shower, gifting event since she already has a young kid and got brand new stuff then. My husband spent around $400 on a gift for her, fine with me. A few weeks later Jen had a traumatic miscarriage. I won't get into the details, but she was devastated and the cause of the loss likely means she won't be able to carry future pregnancies to term. It's incredibly sad, and while I'm not close with Jen, my heart hurt for her. It's been a few months since her loss and my husband is now unsure of how to navigate the gift. It's not something she can use for her older kid. Asking her to return the gift seems cruel, like adding a chore onto her grief, and it's probably past the return window anyway. I'm also not sure if she's going to keep trying to have more kids, very risky for the baby and herself, and it seems incredibly insensitive to ask, plus she may not have decided yet. Asking her to pay us back for it also seems very cruel. My husband and I are also decently high earners, but $400 is still a lot of money. It's one thing if she's able to get a few years of use out of the item, that's money well spent. But if it's going to sit in a box in her attic for years, that's where we are getting stuck. So, would we be the asshole if we asked about getting the gift back? Ideally we could get our money back somehow, although it's probably too late. If we can't, then I'd at least like to gift it to someone else who can use it. I feel awful just saying that, but it's how I feel. However, this is such a sensitive subject and we don't want to pressure her if she's not ready to discuss it. Update. I appreciate the feedback I've gotten. We will not be asking Jen about the gift. We don't want to make her feel worse than she already is. Given her statements in the past regarding adoption, I doubt she will find alternative ways to have another child if she is unable to do so biologically. But that's her path to walk. If she doesn't use it, I hope she at least donates the item to someone who needs it. People have also commented on my tone, and I just wanted to clarify that Jen is truly only my husband's friend, not mine. We aren't couples friends with her and her husband. Jen and my husband were close as kids but haven't been close for years, before I ever came into the picture. Sort of like a cousin you grew up with but only talk to at major holidays now. I don't hate Jen, but we have very different world views, so we likely won't ever be close. I'm sympathetic to Jen's loss as a person and as a person who has also experienced miscarriages. But I am not personally devastated by it, if that makes sense. If my husband wrote the post, the tone would have been different. Given how long they've known each other and how she's so integrated into their family, he felt it was appropriate to gift her a big-ticket item, which I thought was justified. I do wish he had waited to send it because I warned him that it was very early in her pregnancy and anything could happen. I will be logging out of this throwaway. Thanks. You are the asshole. You chose to spend much money. You absolutely didn't have to. There's no tactful way to ask for it back. It'll look petty and greedy, so they'll either try to return everything if they rent to or donate it, but once the gift's given you should let it go. You are the asshole. Sorry about your miscarriage. Can I have my gift back? Really? Why WBTA if you asked for the gift back? You give a gift and you lose control of what happens to it. If the amount of money is an issue, then don't give gifts you can't afford. I'm not sure I understand why she needed another registry, but also do not understand why you, and hubby, gifted her something, even more expensive than the first, especially so early in a pregnancy. Just because she sent a registry does not require you to purchase something. Why WBTA? And you should really ask yourself how you can become a better, more generous in spirit person. Why WBTA? Move on and stop obsessing over Jen. You sound a bit unhinged with the amount of energy you are devoting to this. Just move on. Am I the asshole for committing fraud in my parents' name? I'm 18 at the moment. A little backstory about me is that I never fitted in at secondary school. I'm based in the UK. Never made the friends I wanted to have. And now 3 years after leaving I find myself increasingly isolated and have no one to talk to. Living day by day hoping I'll make friends and be a confident person one day. This caused me a lot of anxiety in the long run and low self-esteem. I was distracting myself for 3 years but a few months ago had a massive realization and a depressive breakdown about this. It was horrible to be in that headspace. Now I guess I'm out of that depressive episode and more distracting myself. Going out with my family, as that's something I enjoy. I don't work and I was due to go university September 2022, and I backtracked and didn't due to anxiety. Now I'm on a gap year doing nothing at home. I dread it every day. I feel ashamed not doing anything for myself, rotting away at home, and most importantly the shame of not making my parents proud. I lied saying I was gonna start this April, May but didn't. They are pretty supportive overall but they came to realize recently that I am feeding them lies and became frustrated. Now sorry for the ramble, but here's when the fraud bit comes in. I applied for 2 credit cards under my mum and dad's name and started using it mostly to book cabs to go places instead of public transport, just because I'm ashamed to go in public. And I started shopping online in the name of self-care. And now there's a due amount of 1.5k. My looser self does not work and the letters started coming in demanding payments, and I hid them for weeks but yesterday my dad was making space and found the hidden letters. I planned on somehow paying it off monthly. I came from outside and he was immediately infuriated. He said all our hard work would waste away and the debtors will take everything. He even spoke to his friends seeking advice and they said that he should have been paying attention, he was too soft on me. He's not completely mad at me now but he was talking about his friends' sons who are doing massive jobs, studying degrees etc. And I said I'm not doing it on purpose, delaying going to uni. And he said I can only be proud, sure when you go. You've wasted months at home. However true it is, it's debilitating having anxiety holding me back and my parents were pretty understanding of my situation and didn't overlook it but now I feel like he is overlooking it, and he told my mum, who's less strict and seems to have a soft spot in my back about me, that I'm doing this for sympathy. And that I have no right after what he's found out I've done to correct him or kick up a fuss. Am I the asshole? I was only spending money to somehow build my confidence, e.g. go places. I would like some advice, Tia. Edit. I took advantage of my parents' naivety and did all this just for my own entertainment. I don't want anyone to sympathize with me when I say having depressive episodes, anxiety really warped and distorted my view of reality and consequences of my actions. For those of you asking if this post is real. As someone who also suffered extreme anxiety and depression at 18, sorry but you are the asshole. Actions have consequences and you're an adult who committed fraud. Your parents care about you and you repaid them by getting them into debt in the name of self-care. What you need to do is get therapy. The waiting list is long but you're in the UK, it's free. Talk to your GP about what you can do in the meantime. And also stop using your mental space as an excuse. You need to apologize and start taking responsibility for your actions. At the end of the day, if your dad decides to press charges, you could be in deep shit. Too bad you can't edit titles and drop those quotes around. Fraud, it's fraud. They were supportive of you staying home and you straight robbed them lol. What's with the scare quotes? This is absolutely fraud, and you are absolutely ta. You've ruined your parents' faith and trust in you. Possibly fucked them financially if they need to get a loan or remortgage the house, in a cost of living crisis where mortgage rates are skyrocketing. You could have talked to your parents about loaning you some money for clothes and travel to help build up your confidence but you didn't, because you knew what the answer would be. Your dad is right, you don't get to kick up a fuss. How do you not understand you're in the wrong? Also, spending money doesn't build your confidence. I don't see how that applies at all. You got credit cards in your folks' names. If you needed money you should have applied for a job or asked them instead of doing this dumb stuff. Also, don't put quotations around the word fraud. That's exactly what you did. You are very clearly the asshole and a straight-up criminal. Am I the asshole for having maternal feelings for my sister's child? My, F29, sister, F34, and her husband, M36 I think, were unable to conceive a baby, and after testing and several rounds of fertility treatment it was concluded that my sister will likely never be able to have children. My sister and her husband approached me last year and asked if I would do them the huge favor of donating my eggs to their efforts. My sister said that she didn't want her baby to feel like someone else's, and that she at least wanted to have a biological connection with it. I thought about it for a long time and decided to agree. It turned out not only could my sister not produce fertile eggs, but her body was actually not suitable to carry a pregnancy to term either. And X200B. After seeing how badly it hurt her and considering that I had already had 2 children of my own, I decided to offer to be her surrogate. The insemination happened a month or 2 after these discussions, and I gave birth to a healthy baby boy this January. My sister was thrilled, but honestly letting her take him from me was the hardest thing I've ever done. She tried to assure me that I would see the baby often, but I couldn't fully mentally accept that I would just be his aunt. And X200B. I also started to view her husband differently. Prior to all of this he was just her husband, but now we shared a baby together. I can't shake the thought that this baby is mine. Every time I see him I notice things about him that remind him of me. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I've even started asking him to call me mama when it's just the 2 of us. I tell him not to tell my sister. I've also started to find myself becoming more and more attracted to my brother-in-law, and I think he reciprocates. My husband and I are divorced, and so I have been raising my children mostly alone with the support of our family. And X200B. My sister noticed that I was cozying up to her husband and my son, and she confronted me. She claimed that I wasn't being fair and wasn't treating my son like a nephew as we had agreed I would. She also accused me of trying to steal her man. I told her that I hadn't said or done anything to her husband, and so how could she claim that? I finally broke down and told her that I can't help that I have maternal feelings for my son. She began to cry loudly and was totally inconsolable for the rest of the time I was there. She told me that she feels like an aunt to her sister and husband's child. She said she feels like the baby is a product of incest. And X200B. What do I do? Am I the asshole? Edit. I want to add that the baby is very young still, and so he doesn't literally say, "Mommy," he says, "Mama," like babbling. I have repeated, "Mama," to him, and he has said it back to me a little bit. I just wanted to be clear that I wasn't telling a fully developed child I was his mother. I have no plans on making a move on her husband. We kissed once in the past, but my sister is aware of this and we worked it out before talks about surrogacy. I will consider therapy. You are the asshole. You were the surrogate. You offered to be the surrogate. You knew what the situation was going to be all along. Just because you're divorced doesn't mean you start eyeing your sister's husband. You are trying to steal her baby and husband from right under her nose, and it is horrible. Secretly asking the kid to call you mommy? You need to see a therapist. Please get the help you need because this may worsen with time. Your timeline is off. I gave birth to a healthy baby boy this spring. Considering it's still technically spring until June, this birth was very recent, like April or May. I've even started asking him to call me mommy when it's just the 2 of us. The baby is probably a month or so old, they absolutely can't talk yet. You are the asshole. Seek therapy immediately. You are the asshole. Every time I see him I notice things about him that remind him of me. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I've even started asking him to call me mama when it's just the 2 of us. I tell him not to tell my sister. I've also started to find myself becoming more and more attracted to my brother-in-law, and I think he reciprocates. I told her that I hadn't said or done anything to her husband, and so how could she claim that? Pick one. Get therapy.